lots of talk about sustainability from governments and people, but there's not that much. There's not a cohesive plan or structure in how we go ahead.
The reality is that it's a complex issue, and it's far easier to have a stance on it when you play at a certain level in the market. Sure, it's an ideal we all want, but how does that play out in the mass market for the average person out there, the average restaurant?
Within the food industry, there's a strong focus and people are quite aware of sustainability and are very interested in it and are looking to actually reduce their impact on the environment.
The discussion needs to be taken in the context of exactly how we define sustainability. To me, sustainability has to include those cultural and commercial issues. You close a fishery on the south coast of New South Wales and what happens to the town that's supporting the fishery that is the commercial background. The people that take the most care in producing their food, whether it be in a kitchen, whether it be on a farm, whether it be on a boat, are typically the same people that are innately operating sustainably.
People would continually say, oh yes, of course I'll pay for organic, we should be doing sustainable fish, we should be focusing on less waste and no bottled water and all this sort of stuff. But the reality of it was that when they went to the supermarket, they bought on price point. So a lot of people will say, well, grain's bad, grass is good. The reality of it, there's a lot of terrestrial farming that's not good in any case for the environment. If you look at it like that, we really should all be eating wallaby and kangaroos. So again, to John's point, commercially, where does it sit? We're not going to stop farming cattle and sheep. So how do we move towards a more sustainable, environmentally friendly situation?
As much as I love the restaurant world, it's going to solve that much of the problem.
Yeah.
But it does have this great voice, and I couldn't deliver to my customers what they were wanting from me anymore because the margins are getting too small. I couldn't keep delivering this thing unless I was prepared to do it. There was a whole raft of reasons, but then I just sort of realised that we're not going to do anything until the customer asks us to do it, no matter what our industries are.
There's a prejudice against a corporation being sustainable, which is completely wrong. I mean,
if you look at models in America where they're taking organics and sustainability to other levels and affordable levels because they get to affordable production models, they've embraced the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to be small to be good.
Well, in fact, it's almost the reverse because there is in many instances, there's a fundamental barrier to entry to be sustainable if you are small.
As chefs, we always like to say we like to find a supplier who will work with us, and it's like, everyone's wanting the same thing. It's just a matter of getting that relationship to work, which obviously works better is more easy to facilitate on a smaller scale than on the larger one.
There's still some fundamental marketing issues. I mean, if you put a kohlrabi salad on your menu and you didn't have a waiter or waitress that was capable of selling that dish, I'm still not going to buy it.
Yeah, and that also is where the role of the restaurant can act in terms of the educating. But it is a passion, it is an emotionally driven industry, and I think it's reached a point that it actually can no longer afford to be for everyone. The margins are too small.
It's all about communication and notification of something that's coming up. Most chefs have been trained ultimately to leave a message at midnight and have it delivered at 10 a.m. the next morning, whatever that may be. Oh, I think I might put duck breast on the menu tomorrow, and there's meant to be 50 there the next day. And that means having 100 or 200 ducks at the ready that you can process straight away, and there's all these massive problems.
We constantly stumble across guys that have grown huge fields of whatever, and they can't market it, they can't sell it. It's not a perfect product which is coming out of the ground. It is a product, and it's a sellable product, it's an edible product. But the key is for us to get the growers to grow smaller quantities so that they've always got a product which is coming out of the ground, being sold, and we're constantly trying to change with the growers the different crops so that they can constantly have something going.
The only way that you can actually have an impact, I think, is at a grassroots level is through awareness. Being able to actually identify what we're buying, where it's grown, how it's farmed, where it's come from, whether it's in season or not, and conveying that in our menus, on our website, with our staff, with our salespeople. There are still a lot of people who don't know how their meat arrives at the supermarket. They buy it wrapped in plastic. They don't know where it comes from. There's a disconnect. There's a real disconnect.
Going back to the producer and really working on the idea of how you cap that growth in some way to create a sustainable model, because the temptation is always just to keep driving through for growth, and then with that comes all of the corruptions that go on around that.
At the end of the day, sustainability is like airbags in a fast car. You're not selling the fast car on the airbags. You're selling it on the sex and violence of its shape and speed. Seriously, if you want to cut to the chase, sustainability is something that makes, sort of urban imperialists like ourselves feel warm and fuzzy. It's not a reality. It is not a reality. All of us, whether we're producing a kohlrabi or an elephant fish, we produce that under the 1997 Commonwealth Biodiversity and Environmental Protection Act. We do not have a choice but to produce our food sustainably.
I listen to all of the stuff on sustainability, and there's just so many aspects of it, but it really starting at the centre of, what is a sustainable business model is really getting people to plan for what they want in their life, in the quality of their own life.
And chefs are now, seen more in the public eye, so you can use that, I think, that media outlet as a way to cook that way, and underutilised species, underutilised vegetables, underutilised products. If you've got potatoes being grown, 50k away from you, why are you going to go to your fruit and veg guy? Why don't you make a relationship with this guy and go and buy from him, kind of thing? And even at this table, we all sit down and we talk about, wallaby not selling in a restaurant. But if, you got 20 chefs together and they said, hey, let's all put on wallaby and let's all push wallaby together, I think it would be a movement.
It's loaded with connotations, and it's loaded with prejudice and people's preconceptions about ideas about where you should and what you should and when you should. But if it's one of those things that you embrace as a business owner, whether it be small or large, then you find solutions to problems. And then in dialogue with people, you find other like-minded people. And then when it's a case of buying from there and wanting to sell to there, then you start working on things such as distribution networks and real-world problems. If you are true to your values, then it's almost a non-issue.